Really appreciate you guys having me, and I'm happy and excited about doing this event. I remember I actually recognized several of the faces in the room because you either worked for me at Global Payments, Jumbo, right? Or, I remember you in the business case competition from last year that I participated in as a judge. So happy to be back on Georgia Tech's campus and working with Kappa Psi. And so my background, my name is Aaron Gray. I'm the founder and CEO of the Legacy Movement. Essentially, our company is at the intersection of entrepreneurship, education, and ecosystem development. So what we do is we teach people how to start new ventures, whether it's a traditional for-profit business, a nonprofit, or a social enterprise, which is basically like a company that does good but still makes money, right? And we also teach people how to buy companies and how to sell companies, and then we plug them into an ecosystem so they can get it done, right? So when you think about ecosystem, well, what is that? That's a group of individuals and organizations that are all centered around deal making, right? So attorneys, CPAs, bankers, technology people, serial entrepreneurs that serve as like board members and advisors for companies. Basically everybody that's involved kind of when you're like starting a company or buying a company, we've already built kind of this network and migrate them onto our technology platform, and that's the way we connect people. So we teach people with online content, but we also do offline workshops like this one where we talk about different nuances in entrepreneurship to kind of help people understand the risk. I like the way that Avi framed up the topic for today, but it's not about me telling you what you should or you should not do. It's really about learning about the pros and cons of entrepreneurship and what's really involved, and then giving you the tools and resources so you can make the choice for yourself. Happy to be working with Kappa Psi. We plan to do a lot of different things together with our partnership. I brought like kind of some cool t-shirts. If you think these t-shirts are cool, feel free to take one before you leave and take my business card. I'm happy to answer any questions about our venture and help you kind of through the decision as you think about whether or not you want to be an entrepreneur or just go to a corporate job. One of the things that we like to do in our workshop is we actually like to get a really good sense of who's in the room, right? Not only it helps me as I do a talk or a presentation, but it also helps you guys out from a networking perspective. So understanding who's in the room, who's sitting next to you, what skills they have, and actually what you guys are working on now. So I'd love to kind of start right here with this young lady, and I'd love for you to just give a quick introduction of who you are, what skill sets you bring to the table, like I'm good in finance, or I'm good in supply chain, or I'm good in accounting, and then actually what you're interested in from either a startup perspective or a corporate perspective. Okay. Just so people are aware.
I'm Zubia Meka. I'm a third-year business administration student. My concentration is finance, so I guess skill set-wise, that's my interest. And then career-wise, I hope to get into healthcare administration, healthcare consulting.
Okay.
I'm Andrew Cudworth. I'm a third-year mechanical engineer. I like working with my hands, and I guess career-wise, I wouldn't mind opening an auto shop of some type, doing custom jobs, those sort of things.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool.
Okay, so I'm Amber. I'm a second-year business administration student. My concentration is finance. Career-wise, short-term, I want to work in the corporate world. Long-term, I want to be an entrepreneur.
When you say long-term, be an entrepreneur, you're talking about 5 years out, 10 years out, 15 years out? Okay, we're going to talk about it.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Barcelo. I'm a second-year computer science major, so I bring, obviously, coding for my technical skills. And when I graduate, I want to be a software engineer initially.
Awesome. And then eventually transition and run your own company?
We'll see.
Okay, good. So finance, software, great.
Hello, my name is Jamie Lee. I'm a fourth-year business administration major. My concentration is finance, and recently I've been really interested in government finance and policy.
Okay, awesome, good.
Hi, my name is Amanda. I'm a third-year finance major. I guess skill set-wise, my concentration is finance, so skills like that. And I'm interested in working in the corporate world immediately, and I guess long-term entrepreneurship, maybe like 5-10 years out.
Okay, great, awesome.
So my name is Pulkit, and I'm a second-year mechanical engineering major. And so in terms of skills, I feel like I'm really creative. I'm always coming up with new ideas and everything. So I'm going to use that creativity to eventually open a company like preferably manufacturing. So I'm going to become an entrepreneur down the road.
Excellent,
My name
excellent.
is Sydney Beebe. I'm a fourth-year business student and operations major, but I want to do something with global missions.
Global mission, so like social entrepreneurship,
Sure.
like Echo and Green Fellow, that type of thing. Well, I'm a starting block fellow, so we should definitely talk about that. Good.
Hi, my name is Quinn, and I'm the first-year mechanical engineering major.
I'm Supraja, and I'm here because I'm interested in entrepreneurship, and we have a family business in India, and we have ideas about expanding it and things like that.
Do you mind if I ask what industry your family's business is in?
Industrial telecommunications.
Okay. Awesome. Telecom, manufacturing, finance, software. Okay. You, sir?
Yeah, I'm Mike Payne, a fourth year aerospace engineering major. I've been around, I've done some work for engineering companies, but I also do work for my dad. I do accounting and shipping and things like that, so I'm very familiar with how accounting and how numbers work.
Got it. So you have some people that have some experience at family businesses. That's great. You guys bring a really good perspective to this conversation. So good.
And I'm Richard Park. I'm a third-year industrial engineering major. Something that appeals to me is like doing something different every day. So maybe start my own, like consulting or start my own business, potentially manufacturing is another option.
Okay.
Hi guys, my name is Jonathan Grant, fourth year business administration major. My concentration is finance with a minor in computer science. So I bring those, IT skills to the table, whether it be certain languages or database, web page, platforms. Ideally, out of here, get into the financial services, investment banking world, really master that, and then 5 to 7 years, typically, or ideally 5, look to start my own thing, whether it be in hedge funds or venture capital.
Okay, well, I actually have experience in all the fields that you mentioned, except for hedge funds directly. So I'll give you guys a little bit of insight to my background after we finish Marketplace.
My name is Ayush Mehta. I'm a second-year industrial engineering major. And my father back home in India, he also has a family business in the automotive industry. So I plan to expand that, or closer to the time, I might start something on my own. So I'm kind of deciding between the two.
Excellent. I like the whole international aspect that you've got people here that have that perspective, at least whether it's someone who's kind of helped do business in India and in the U.S., but just having that experience growing up in a family business is good. So it's good that other people know that. You can talk to your students, fellow students directly about it. Yep.
Hi, my name is Adnan Lathani. I am a second year CS and IE major. So in terms of skill set, I can bring both the computer science technical aspect as well as the industrial engineering in terms of financial economics and supply chain. So right now I'm looking into going corporate, but perhaps if I can find a good idea, I can go into entrepreneurship.
Awesome. So you're basically just on the fence, just waiting. Okay, good.
All right, I'm Ryan Zalmore. I'm a second year business administration student with a concentration in accounting.
Okay.
And I'm looking to kind of enter the corporate field, but definitely entrepreneurship is,
It's on the
very
brain.
appealing, yeah.
And because you have 2 to 3 years left, you got plenty of time to build your business before you get out of here, so that's great. Yep.
Hi, I'm Toya Chidi. I'm a third year aerospace engineering major. As far as skill sets, I'm kind of building my skill sets as a structural analyst co-op at NASA. And long-term goal is probably to become a full-time structural analyst for them.
Okay, excellent.
Hi, my name is Zari Peretz. I'm a second year industrial engineering and business major, concentration in finance, and a Chinese minor. So when I get out of college, I want to go into consulting or perhaps something in like Eastern Asia, China area, and then join my family company after that.
Okay, do you mind if I ask what's your family's business, what industry?
They manufacture special effects pigments for inks and coatings.
Okay.
Like what makes cars sparkly, basically.
Like Mako, Sherwin-Williams type stuff?
Yeah, more like, stuff like that.
Okay, awesome. See, I know that business. So,
My name is Manav. I'm a second year CS major and a French minor. As far as skills are concerned, I guess I'm always exploring new ideas. I'm really zoned in on anything specific yet.
Okay, good.
Hi, my name is Rahul Shed. I'm a third year computer science major. With I guess you could say concentrations in people in media, so more on the user interface side. So I guess post-graduation, I'll be interested in management to technical consulting, and then 5 to 6 years down the line. But,
You should check out something called Product Camp Atlanta if you're into like UX. Like digital media people, if that's what I understand you're saying, what your interest is like user interface design, Product Camp Atlanta, so you can get involved before you graduate. So.
Hi, my name is Bas Garza. I'm a second year business administration major and economics major with a concentration in finance. Skill set wise, I like to think outside the box and I try not to ever give up, so that's something. And I'm developing my skills in finance and I guess my studies. And then I guess my career goals, I'd like to go into consulting or in the financial industry and work
my main, the skills I bring to the table are the technical side of CS and the expressive side of CS, and I am not really completely sure about my future plans yet, but definitely hoping for this event to give me more insight on if I want to get into the corporate world or the
Excellent.
entrepreneurship side.
Excellent.
Hi, my name is Kappa Psi. I'm a second-year business administration major. Concentration is in accounting. And I guess career-wise, I probably would like to go to the corporate world, like auditing, for instance.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Kappa Psi. I'm a second-year international affairs and Spanish student. So I would like to, use my language skills in the international business perspective, kind of be able to travel and work with different companies
Excellent.
Hi, my name is Yuvraj Singh. I'm a third-year industrial engineering major and minoring in international affairs. The skill sets, I feel I'm good at is strategy and analysis, mainly about management sector. I do have a small startup company that I started after graduating from high school.
Okay.
But I'm also looking forward, definitely entrepreneurship is my preference, but also looking, second option is the corporate world.
Okay, great. Current startup guy. Good.
Hi, my name is Kappa Psi. I'm a third-year computer science major. I'm really interested in database applications, web development, and web security. So I'm hoping to get into a company that deals with that primarily, like Google or something like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of data security InfoSec companies here in Atlanta, so you're in the perfect place. Yep.
Hi, my name is Nina Billinger. I'm a fourth-year business administration student, concentrating in accounting. Short term, I'd like to go into audit, and then long term, I'd really like to use those accounting applications for either like a startup or like a smaller firm where like it's more interactive, where like you use like a bigger company feel, I guess, and then like work my way up to like CFO or controller.
Excellent. Mr. 4.0. Sorry, I called you out.
So my name is Utkarsh. I'm a computer science major third year. So I guess what I bring to the table is mainly the technical skills that I learned about CS. I've also worked in supply chain before, so I kind of have a sense for that, how like organizations would really work. And I'd also sound like a people person, so I guess that's a soft skill that always helps.
Yeah, definitely.
And my father actually does have a healthcare software consulting company. That's a startup that he made. Probably not what I want to do as far as what he does for work, but the entrepreneurship part I definitely like.
Okay, excellent. Jomo?
So, I guess I'm Junmo Yang. I'm a third-year business major with a concentration in accounting. My career aspiration is being an auditor with one of the big four auditing firms. But at the same time, I have this drive for entrepreneurship. That's why I'm really interested to learn about how to start a company, like what kind of things to look out for. Because in the future, I would like to start up my own, like my name branded company, so that I can make a legacy out of the environments or the locations that I'm in.
Awesome. Junmo Enterprises.
Hey guys, my name is Abhinav Sani. I'm a fourth-year industrial engineering major with a concentration in supply chain logistics and a minor in economics. In terms of skill set, it'd be a lot of the IE stuff like supply chain, manufacturing, warehousing, optimization, stuff like that. But I feel more importantly, it'd be more of like social skills and people skills and communication skills. So I feel like that would be a plus. In terms of career aspirations, I don't know. I have no idea. I graduated a year, so I hope I find out before that. Hopefully like a challenge for the next 2 or 3 years, get into like a challenging industry, consulting or banking. And then after that, definitely, look into starting something up of my own. But yeah.
Excellent. Well, that's great. So many talented people in the room, so many diverse set of experiences, family members that have businesses, a current startup founder, aspiring consultants, obviously, and several people that either have that experience or are going in, kind of into those fields post-graduation. So there's tons of overlap, as you guys can see, just in the room by going through that exercise. And we love doing that because that's exactly, what our platform is built on. The whole ecosystem concept is a lot of time the answers are already in the room. You just got to kind of know what people's skill sets are and know what they're working on to be able to offer up value to them and in return receive value as well. So that was good. So now my background. So have been in finance and technology for about 10 years. Graduated from Florida A&M in 2003. Started off working in investment banking at Goldman Sachs, focused on technology, media, and telecom. So did that. I also spent a little bit of time in equity capital markets as well. So worked on the advisory side with M&A and kind of debt and equity financing, and then spent some time directly focused in capital markets as well. So got to see a lot in finance in a very short time. Towards the end of my 2-year analyst commitment, I knew I didn't want to be on Wall Street forever. I wanted to have a more diverse set of skills and be kind of a broader business professional. So I started seeking other opportunities. And a buddy of mine, who was a little bit older than me, had left to work at this venture capital firm called Bankrupt Technology. One of their portfolio companies was Fandango. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but they sell movie tickets online, little puppets and stuff. So, they had a job opening up. They were probably about 3.5, 4 years old at the time. We're looking for somebody to do kind of some strategy work and some finance work and biz dev. Wear multiple hats because it is a startup. So I said, yeah, that sounds pretty interesting. So moved out to Los Angeles. Fandango was back at actually 2 VCs, Bankrupt Technology and Technology Crossover Ventures, otherwise known as TCV. So I got a chance to really learn and understand the whole startup world, the dynamics of having VC investors and kind of manage that whole process. And over the course of 2 years, I worked in business development, kind of doing partnerships and different deals for Fandango with other larger companies. And also I worked in business intelligence, so basically looking at a bunch of metrics and figuring out how to optimize activities in the company so we can make more money or save more money. And also better serve our customers. So we ended up actually getting acquired by Comcast in 2007. So that was fun, going through the whole exit process. All the VCs were happy, all the young people were happy because everybody made a lot of money. And then I actually went to business school. I applied to business school kind of before that process got started and got accepted to HBS, or otherwise known as Harvard Business School. But before kind of that process, basically the deal closed like April 30th, May 1. Right? So I was pretty much done at that point because there was nothing left to really do but kind of integrate the company. And since I wasn't going to be a part of the long term, it didn't make sense for me to stay at the company. So I resigned and I said, well, what am I going to do before business school? I shouldn't just hang out on the beach. I should probably do something to help me out long term. So I started kind of just soft pitching people on working in venture capital because that's where my interest was at the time. And happened to luck up one of my former Goldman buddies, going back to this whole concept of relationships matter. One of my former Goldman buddies actually had met a VC who worked at Graycroft Partners, who was also an HBS alum. So he hooked me and her up, and then I ended up getting a job working in venture capital for that summer before business school, focused on consumer internet startups, digital media startups, and also mobile. Right? So that was a great experience because I learned all about kind of the venture capital world, looking at deals from the other side, what characteristics that VCs look at when they invest in teams, how to build companies, build value over time, and then what to look for in exits and things like that. So learned a ton before business school. 2007, whole world blew up, as you guys, I think, remember, right? So Lehman Brothers, Bear Stearns, Merrill Lynch, all that stuff came crashing down as soon as we got to school. So all my plans about doing VC in Silicon Valley pretty much went away. A lot of opportunities in tech startups went away because, obviously a lot of companies didn't know if they were going to continue to get funded. So that forced me to kind of look outside the box about what I wanted to do. And I had some other interests in kind of education reform because I'd always been very active in terms of mentoring at-risk youth growing up. And so I said, well, how can I turn an interest with working with at-risk youth and passion for education into a job? Got lucky, I think, to a certain extent in that the mayor of Sacramento, Kevin Johnson, we actually did a case on him and his time in the education world in this class I took at HBS called Entrepreneurship and Education Reform. Right? So this is combining kind of entrepreneurship teaching with the education world. Right? So it was a really eye-opening class. The mayor came to campus to actually speak about his time running St. Hope, and he basically launched an idea that said, hey, I want to do a fellowship program where I bring in HBS people for a summer just to help me work on policy initiatives. So I thought I was pretty interested. He's really passionate about education. I was passionate about education. I wanted to get back to California, so I applied and I got in. So I actually worked with him for a summer in Sacramento, working on education and policy initiatives and working in government. And that let me know right then and there, I never want to work in government ever again. Right? So eye-opening experience. You learn a lot about the world, you learn a lot about how things get done. But it wasn't the world for me longer term, and I wanted to be back in a technology room in LA. So I digged around for a job, tried to find something ideal, but things didn't work out obviously because the market was still really tough in 2009. And I ended up actually at kind of a smaller, more startup-like education company doing operations in Southern California. Wasn't the best fit for me, but I was kind of in this mindset that I have to be in California. It has to be that's the path for me. That's what I decided on. And then I basically, we'll get to this point later, I pivoted and said, let me actually look outside of California and see if there's something that's a better fit. So I had a lot of friends in Atlanta. They call me all the time and say, hey, I really think you need to consider moving down here. There's a lot of companies down here if you're looking for the corporate thing, but also it's got a burgeoning entrepreneurship and tech scene. I think you should consider it and kind of get out this California mind frame and start opening up your mind to other opportunities. And so I started, kind of leveraging the HBS network and ended up getting a corporate strategy and M&A job at Home Depot. So moved down to Atlanta, had a great time there for about a year and a half. Moved on to do M&A at Global Payments, so that's mergers and acquisitions, so basically just buying companies for the firm. But was developing this kind of urge or niche to do something like entrepreneurial, something more meaningful. So as me and a buddy kind of battered around this whole concept of, well, entrepreneurship, why is it so tough to get out of the box? Why couldn't I think of the best idea? We kind of figured out that a lot of other people are in the same situation, like many of you are actually in, which is corporate, path versus entrepreneurship path. So we actually started just developing a business that basically said, what if we actually tried to serve people who were trying to focus on that problem and actually solve it for them, right? So we teach them how to build companies, right? Then we actually help them build it, right? And let's see if we can actually sell that. So that's where we are today, the legacy move. But I want to talk about the whole corporate path versus entrepreneurship path. And there's kind of two main things, I jotted these down really quickly I wanted to go over, that every entrepreneur has to be comfortable with, right? Uncertainty and adapting quickly to change. So the uncertainty piece, right? Starting a new business, whether it's a new product or service, whether it's improving on an existing product or service, a lot of times you have no idea whether or not people actually want to pay for that product. So one of the key things that you have to be comfortable with is, well, what if we never figure out that this is the right product to sell, right? That's a very scary thing for a lot of people, and that's why a lot of people don't do it, because they say, well, I don't want to get out there and just lose everything and lose my entire life savings, right? So being comfortable with uncertainty. And one founder last night, I was at this mentor session, really put it well for me. He said, there's 4 things you want to have in every product or service, right? You want to make something that either people want to have, either people have to have it, it either generates more revenues for them, or it actually saves them money. If it's not doing one of those 4 things, this whole willingness and ability to pay, just forget about it. So figure that out first before you kind of take that leap. And then the other thing with uncertainty and being comfortable with it is that there's this whole dynamic and concept that people talk about cash versus king. Do I just bootstrap this thing with my savings and just kind of go for it and control the business? Or do I spend time out here raising money from others and then kind of let them control me, and now you have a boss, you're not all truly an entrepreneur, you kind of are, but you still have a boss and you answer to a board and things like that. So that changes the dynamic a little bit. So are you comfortable with the whole cash versus king dynamic, or do you really like the whole kind of safety net of just having the VCs, investors kind of guide your way? That's the huge uncertainty that people have to deal with. And I think the final thing with uncertainty is that failure is okay. And I know a lot of times in society we don't actually think it is. We think it's a bad thing. But if you talk to most entrepreneurs and most founders, they will tell you that they failed so many times, and they were all good experiences because it taught them what to do better the next time. So embracing this concept that failure is okay, and if you go out to the marketplace with the product that you think is going to work and you start pitching customers on it and nobody wants it, that's okay. Just change it, right? Just change it and say, well, get the feedback from your potential customers. Say, well, what do you want to buy? Because they'll tell you. Your idea sucks. People have no problem telling you it sucks. I'll just tell you that from experience. and so one of the things that you have to be, another thing you have to be comfortable with is just the ability to adapt quickly to change. So being humble, realizing that, yeah, you're smart. You went to Georgia Tech, aerospace engineering. He's probably smarter than almost everybody in here, right? But there are some things that he doesn't know. So when he gets out there as an entrepreneur and he makes a mistake by, crafting the wrong product or service, he has to be humble to say, well, maybe we should just change it because the 50 potential customers we talked to said they're not buying that. So let's just change it. And a lot of entrepreneurs actually struggle with that point because they're so wedded to their idea, they don't want to admit that they're wrong, they don't want to admit that they failed, and they refuse to pivot, and then obviously they lose everything, right? So another thing that's important, downsizing your lifestyle. Now, we got a lot of college students in the room, so I don't think you guys are living high on the hog just yet. But as you get out here in the workforce and you start making all this money with Google and Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley, transitioning into entrepreneurship. So the lifestyle you live working for Morgan Stanley, you probably want to scale that down while you're building your business and make sure you actually get traction with your product or service first. Some people have a real issue with that. Oh, I'm used to kind of getting the car service every night, or I'm used to going out 3-4 times a week and eating these fancy steaks. When you're starting a company and you don't know if you're actually going to make any money, it actually makes sense to actually conserve as much cash as possible, because well, a key lesson that I've learned, it always takes longer than you think, right? That product that, your developer told you was gonna take 2 months to build may take 6. So if you're out there living the very same lifestyle and you don't know how to downsize and just kind of do with less for the time being, then you could run into some cash flow issues. Then you get right back into this whole cash versus king trade-off. Now I have to go out here and raise money instead of focus on selling my product so we don't go bankrupt, right? You don't want to be in that position. And then also I think in terms of adapting quickly to change, we talked about this a little bit already, is just being a better listener, right? So this process of going out here and pitching a new product or service, that's all you're going to be doing, is pitching and listening. So if you don't know how to listen to other people, you're going to have a lot of issues. And I think also it's really learning that good ideas come from everywhere. So I don't care if it's somebody who has a design background, somebody who's been an engineer before, you're doing a finance idea, I worked in finance, who cares what I think? There may be somebody who's from a totally different field, thinks completely different than how you think about business, may actually have a really great idea that can help you out. So being a really good listener and improving your listening skills as you're building your business is a key crucial skill set. So I think if you kind of can be comfortable with these things, entrepreneurship can probably work for you. I think if you have the mindset that, hey, I'm not as confident yet to just get out there, I want to go work in corporate America for a little bit, that's okay too. I think a lot of times students feel that they want to just go try corporate America and learn some key stuff, so then in case the business doesn't work, they can just jump back in. I totally understand that dynamic too, and I actually think it's not a bad idea. But I think if you've got a burning passion and you've got some smart people around you just want to go for it, you're actually at the best point in your lives to take this risk and start a business. Because I'm assuming most people in here are not married. How many people are married? How many people have kids? Okay, this is the best time in your life to start a business, right? So once you actually get these other obligations going in your life and you start talking about mortgages and private school tuition and daycare and all these other things, this decision and this transition to move into a more risky lifestyle, start a business, gets that much harder. So you're actually at the best point in time in your life where you have very little risk, right? You just got your student debt, and you can just go out there and just jack around and see if you come up with something. There are a couple of people here, I think they mentioned they're sophomores. You guys got, what, 2 or 3 years to build a business on campus with all these great resources. You're around a bunch of smart students, you got professors at your disposal, you got ATDC, you got Flashpoint. So if you're really serious about entrepreneurship, I think utilize this downtime, if you want to call it that, in your lives, to actually go out here and start exploring whether or not entrepreneurship is really for you. Because the corporate path actually will always be there. You can always just kind of just go get a paycheck every 2 weeks. You guys have great backgrounds, you're really smart, you're really accomplished, hardworking. You're going to get a job. And I think that if you kind of got this burning sensation that, hey, I really want to be a business owner, just go for it. I think that's really it. It's really about your corporate path. I use this term sparingly, job security, because your job is only secure if someone shows up at your desk with a pink slip. So jobs are secure to a certain extent, but as you guys saw in the financial crisis when things turned down, a lot of smart people got fired. A lot of people in MBAs got fired, right? So at the end of the day, your destiny a lot of times as an entrepreneur is in your hands, and you really capture all the upside based on how hard you work. And it's not really about what happens in the economy. So I think that's a really good place to be as you think about job security versus really truly having control over your life, right? So I don't want to keep belaboring the point, just lecture all night because that's boring. But I'd love to, one, take any questions that you guys may have and just get some dialogue going because there's a lot of different perspectives in the room. And I actually want to hear from some of the people who have worked in their family businesses about their experiences. But first, let's just do kind of general Q&A. Does anybody have any specific questions on what I talked about, how I built the legacy movement, where we are, that type of thing? Yeah.
So you said that you help people who want to start a business. So how do you help? What are the things that you do other than seminars?
Yeah. So let's definitely talk about that. So the legacy movement. What we have built is actually an online technology platform that actually I've written kind of the content basically kind of on a lot of nuances in entrepreneurship. So if you go at legacymovement.net/education, on that we've got 4 tabs, right? 1 tab for entrepreneurship, 1 tab for buying companies, and 1 tab for selling companies, and also a recommended reading list. And pretty much what we try to do is just lay out, okay, if you're going to do entrepreneurship, here are the 10 to 15 nuances you're going to have to deal with. So we write about how to choose a co-founder, how to refine the business model, how to figure out if you need a co-founder or not, how to split up that initial equity, how to hire the initial team. issues that literally everybody has to deal with, whether you're doing a technology company, or you're doing a restaurant, or you're doing a real estate business, right? Entrepreneurs run into the same issues all the time. We also write about how to transition from your corporate job to your startup without basically mortgaging, your whole future. So we do the same thing. We write content on education, buying companies, selling companies, and also have a recommended reading list, which essentially gives people like a core set of about 10 books that cover finance, financial statements, how to do like startups via the lean startup method, which is something that's really popular amongst the tech startup crowd now, and actually can be applied to businesses of any industry. We also recommend certain key blogs, books on presentations, and kind of like that. But it's basically a set of core books that a lot of people are reading in the startup world that are really effective. People are implementing these principles and basically getting out of the corporate rat race and starting very successful, sustainable companies without raising funding all the time. So there's some books on the list that talk about how to raise VC money, but we also write about whether or not it actually makes sense for you versus actually just bootstrapping the business. So pretty much writing educational content, and it's going to evolve over time, on like the nuances to start a business, so people can like start getting some early education about it, feel confident, feel motivated to do it. And then we also do offline workshops like this. So we have strategic partners in a number of different places in the country. If you go to the partnership section on our website, you can see the different organizations that we work with, and we're going to continue to build that out over time. But we basically do offline workshops directly in communities and directly at schools. So there's also an underlying mission to our business. And so our vision statement is to change the conversation about success and entrepreneurship in underserved communities. So we've targeted women, military vets, and minorities. We actually go directly into low-income communities, directly onto military bases, and teach entrepreneurship, right? Because we know when we start looking at some of these major deal centers in the country, those three groups that I mentioned a lot of times are not there, right? For a number of different reasons that we don't really need to get into. It's really about let's just build some solutions, right? Let's just teach people directly, right? And on the ecosystem concept, the technology platform actually connects people. Think of it as like a LinkedIn for doing deals, right? You got profiles where everyone fills out the information, they talk about what they're good at, what they're working on. You have a search query that allows you to actually search for other people on the platform based on what you're looking for. And then basically this allows you to, we also have a messaging system that allows you to quickly blast messages out to everyone on the platform. So when you need help on, let's say, hey, I need to find a PHP developer really quickly, right? People on the platform who have that background experiences can say, hey, I know a PHP guy, or hey, that's what I do. Or you can actually search for them, actively via the search query. So we basically built a number of different technology tools that allow you to plug into the ecosystem and quickly get connected to people who have skill sets that can help you build your business. And so I actually work and a number of other people, we volunteer our time because we believe in the ecosystem concept. So if you contacted me via the platform because you saw me and I'm an expert in financial modeling, and you said, hey, I've never done this before, I read the books that you recommended, but I actually need somebody to review my model, I would just do that for you. Because that's what the ecosystem is about. It's about creating this network of people that help each other so that when you're trying to get something done, it's that much easier because you've got this ready-made network that we're out here building on your behalf. Yep.
So one of the questions I had was, I know you mentioned, how this is a perfect time for someone who's graduating to, start something of their own.
Perfect time.
Right. So my question would be, at this stage, you obviously don't have that initial capital to invest into your business. And at the same time, you mentioned that venture capitalism or capitalists are not the best way to go too, because you lose your decision-making ability.
Yeah.
So where's the middle ground? What do you do? Like, you don't want to lose your decision-making ability. At the same time, you don't have the initial capital to start something. What are you left with, loans or?
Yeah, so that hits directly to this cash versus king trade-off. So let's talk about that. There's a book that we recommend on the site. It's called The Founder's Dilemma. It's written by Noah Wasserman. He's actually a professor of mine at Harvard Business School. So I took his course. Amazing course, changed my life. Like totally reoriented the way that I thought about entrepreneurship, because he's basically actually done a lot of academic research and just knows like a ton of entrepreneurs and basically took all these insights over the course of like a 10-year study and then crammed them into this great book and wrote in very deep detail all these different issues that you talk about, right? So basically what you're talking about is bootstrapping versus raising money. Right. And at the very early stage of a business, you can't actually raise VC money. You're raising what you actually call as like the seed round or the angel round, which is typically anywhere from $50,000 to $250,000, right? A lot of people get that money from friends and family, but not everybody comes from a wealthy family, so it's not an option for everybody. So what they do is they figure out, well, how can I build this business very cheaply just to test to see if this business actually works, right? So before actually going out here raising rounds and doing like this real exhaustive process around the fundraising aspect, it's let me read about this whole lean startup thing. This book is on the site too. It's by an author named Eric Ries, right? A lot of entrepreneurs are using like these methodologies, these principles that Eric Ries champions, and also a very popular professor out of Stanford named Steve Blank. They talk about how to basically do customer discovery in a very kind of like scientific, but also cheap way, right? So rather than you kind of toiling away in your dorm room, like building a technology product that costs $200,000 and you put it out in the marketplace and nobody buys it, actually doing live customer interviews before you go build anything, just to see if people are interested in it, right? So there's actually like a scientific method that these guys have come up with that allows you to test a business concept for little to no money. So that way you're not risking a lot. So I actually would recommend reading a lot of those books first, figuring out if you actually can come up with a problem that needs to be solved in a business, and then figure out how can I build this business for very little money, or just test the idea and concept in the marketplace before going to risk anything. And what you may find is, hey, we can build this business actually for like $15,000 just by getting some web developers to build us a website. Or maybe, hey, this thing actually is going to cost us $500,000 to build, so hey, let's go start this whole like angel campaign and let's develop some milestones and do it that way. Or maybe we need to go to like a rich uncle or something and get the money from him, right? So when you go through the process that's talked about in these books, you know, business model generation and lean startup, you're actually going to come up with a way to test the concept first. And that may just be soft pitching people the idea before you go and do anything. And that way you can actually optimize the decision on, does it make sense to just go build something for like $10,000 to see if we can make some money real quick, just bootstrapping it? Or do we actually need to go raise money? Does that make sense? Yep.
So a lot of people like the security of like a full-time job after they graduate. Like it just, you know that you're going to get a paycheck basically.
So-called security.
Yeah. But I know a lot of people that do that, but they also want to get into entrepreneurship. So do you think it's possible that there could be like a middle ground where they have that job, but then maybe they're just trying to start a startup on the side, or should it be like one or the other?
So that's a really interesting question. I'd love to hear from some of the other people in the room. From my perspective, I'd love to hear from some of the people whose families have done this is what they did. It's not all just about what I think, right? I think it mainly revolves around comfort level, right? So are you comfortable pulling double duty? You know, there's some people who talk about working in finance and consulting. That is not a 9-to-5 job. So you'll be working 70, 80, 100 hours a week, sometimes be on the road. So are you comfortable working 80 hours a week, then working on your startup too? Is that even feasible for you, right? Really depends on what job you're in.
Consulting, you're always on the road.
That's right. Consulting, basically, most of the time, because you don't choose where your clients are. Your clients are where they are, and then you just go get sent out to do the work. So if that happens, how does that affect the team dynamics if you're doing this business with another person? Or just with you doing the business yourself. You're with your coworkers all the time and the client, so when you get time to actually go build this business, right? So think about it on a practical level. Does it even make sense to pull double duty? And you may find that actually just getting out there and taking the risk and doing it is the best way to actually test the business idea and see if it works. Because let's say you actually do come up with something that has traction. How are you going to serve your customers and serve McKinsey at the same time, right? So you may find that the only way to really grow the business is just go do the business, right? Then you have to quit, right? So I think, it's about let's optimize this free time that you have, right, while you actually have the leeway to like test a business idea while you're in school, because all you got to do really is take class and do some extracurriculars, which is great. And then, yeah, I'm a little bit jealous. And then actually you'll see if you got a business, and then you may actually find that as you go through this process of what would it take to really run this business, maybe it just takes having a co-founder who's full-time while I'm part-time until we start making a lot of cash. That may be one solution. And maybe, no, this thing may take a couple of years, so let's just kind of test it on the side before we jump out and just do it in 2 years when we really know that we got a business here. Or you may find out, you know what, this thing really works. We need to just like go ahead and just quit our jobs, just do this full-time with your co-founder, and that may be the solution. So really it's going to take actually getting out there in the marketplace with the product and getting feedback from customers before you really know is kind of pulling the double duty even an option for you. Okay. Yep. Does anybody have any perspectives to share from their family business experience? I know we talked to a couple of people that mentioned that they have family members that run businesses overseas. We have some people that actually work directly in them. I'd love to, have you guys share some experiences of what it was like kind of, working within an entrepreneurial company, and also kind of dynamic of working with family members, if anyone's happy to share. you talked about a family business as well.
Yeah, my great-grandpa started a family business. He actually worked for Alcoa prior to starting a family business as a VP of inks and coatings, and they were getting out of that business, and he decided that he thought he could do it better than the people they were selling to. So he quit and he started his own business with my grandpa, and that business consisted of like one giant mill that created the aluminum powder that they put into the inks and coatings. And from there, it was really like, I guess, my grandpa and my mom being really entrepreneurial, who like moved it overseas, and it actually just went to China a couple of years ago. So I got to witness what my mom was doing to get it into China, and that whole entrepreneurial, moving it into different countries and stuff like that. And it kind of, I guess what it taught me was like, you don't need to start a business to be an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
You just need to bring that business somewhere it hasn't been before, because my mom was extremely entrepreneurial, and she didn't start her own business.
I mean, that's a phenomenal point. She said about 3 rock star things. 1, I was at a corporation, I saw them do something well, so bing, there's my idea, I'm gonna go do it better than them. And a lot of times, I mean, when I was at Home Depot, it's the same thing. A lot of ex-Home Depot guys went and built businesses of things that Home Depot couldn't do, customers they couldn't serve in the marketplace in a certain industry, and they either like just killed it because no one else was out there doing it, or they end up selling the business back to Home Depot and making a lot of money. So that actually happens quite often in corporate America, that people get their business ideas from being in their jobs. And when the corporation says, well, we can't do X because that's not going to generate a certain ROI for us, so we're not doing that project. And the guy says, well, the marketplace is saying they want to serve it, so why not just quit, just go serve it, and I'll just own 100% of the market. So that actually is a place for a lot of business ideas. So problems that aren't getting solved accurately by large corporations who are incumbents, right? And you also talked about just going to a new market with something. So let's talk about the companies that copy Guild Group and Groupon overseas, right? Why did those companies, be billion-dollar companies? I can't name all of them, but the flash sites, the daily deal sites. All they did was say, well, this works in America, so let's just be the first one to do it in Brazil, and now they got a billion-dollar company, right? Because those people, if they're from that region, or they decide to just move there and just do the business, they understand the local nuances better than anybody in Chicago would in Groupon, right? So I'm just going to move to my home country. I'm going to do the exact same business. I'm going to be first to market. I've got all the local relationships. I know all the people with the banks, the government officials. I'm going to get over here before the American company is. Boom, I got a billion-dollar business. Happens all the time. There's actually a group of guys, the name slips my mind, but you can look them up online, where literally that's their strategy. It's called Rocket something. And basically what their company does is they study trends all over the globe, and they find like the hottest ideas in each country, and they just move to different countries where the business doesn't exist and just starts them before incumbents. And they made billions and billions of dollars over like the last 7 years or so doing it. They're just copycats. And it works. So you can say, well, that's not that imaginative, that's kind of lame, just copying ideas, but they're all billionaires. So like, I don't know how lame it is to be a billionaire, but whatever, it works. So you guys can look up their story online, it's pretty interesting. There's a lot of stuff going on in entrepreneurship, and the key thing I think you brought up, what's key for everybody, is that entrepreneurship just looks very different. And it's not just, and we also teach this a lot with the legacy movement, is that it's not just starting a business from scratch. You can actually buy a small business and run that and grow it over time. And that idea may just be right there in your local community. Buy a bar that's right down the street from Georgia Tech that throws off $600,000 a year. Maybe the guy wants to retire and get out of it. Why don't you just go buy it from him? And you just own it. You're sitting here right here on Georgia Tech's campus. It's not like students are going anywhere, right? That's a $600,000 business right there, right? What if the guy's looking to retire and he can't sell it to his kid because his kid's too dumb and his kid's going to run into the ground? It happens all the time, actually. This is how we found out that there was a market for people that actually wanted to buy companies, small and medium-sized business, because you would have business owners who are getting older in age. The typical thing, so the legacy, hence the name legacy, with the legacy they want to leave in their family by passing business down, they couldn't do so because the kid is just running around doing whatever. It's like, man, I can't leave this business, this kid, they're going to ruin it. So now they're out here in the marketplace looking for somebody to sell the business to, and they're going to either like high net worth, like kind of, money managers or boutique investment banks or lawyers saying, help me sell this business. It's not a huge business, it only makes like $600,000 a year, but I don't know, $600,000 a year sounds kind of attractive to most people in this room and to most people in America, so that may be good enough. Through our research, it shows that not everybody wants to be Instagram. They're fine with just making enough money to take care of themselves, go on a few vacations to the kids' college. That works. So there's a market out there for small and medium-sized business owners who need to transition out of their business, and they don't necessarily have like a company they can take to Wall Street and get it done. So, any other questions? Does anyone? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, like I said, one of my questions is, often people like know they want to get into entrepreneurship and like, they know they don't want to go the corporate route, like they don't want to do that 9-to-5 thing every day for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they might not have an idea that they think is, sellable to everyone else.
Yeah.
So for individuals like that, what would you suggest? Should they like somehow like, continue doing the 9-to-5 thing, or should they try to go venture out somewhere else?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. So we write about that on the site in the education section. The topic, the topic that I gave it was, what idea should I focus on, right? Basically, how do I conceptualize an idea? We talked about a couple of methods. Take a business that exists in one market, i.e. the U.S., or just maybe in a region that exists and works. Just copy it and just do it somewhere else where it's not being done. There it is. There's your business, right? Take a problem that needs to be solved. Congestion in Atlanta freeways. Maybe it's healthy food options on Georgia Tech's campus. It can be a whole bunch of different things. If you actually just sit there and think about stuff that sucks, you'll actually come up with like so many $1 businesses. I literally know this is how people do it. Most businesses, good businesses, now I say most businesses fail because they actually don't go through this exercise. Most people just kind of start businesses randomly. But they say, I want to do a restaurant. Like, let's just put it downtown. That's the no. It's actually what restaurant needs to be put downtown, if any. What's missing, right? Why does downtown suck right now, right? What restaurants are missing? So figure out what that restaurant is and go out and figure out how to test the menu in a cheap way. There's actually a company in town called Staple House that did that. So what they did is they used their house as like the testing lab for a menu. So they basically got with a bunch of foodies, started charging $75 a head for these 4-course meals, and tested out a menu for like 2 to 3 years before they decided to open up a restaurant. Because most restaurants fail because either the menu sucks or high turnover, rising food costs, whatever it is. They don't even get a chance to test to see if people will eat the food, right? So they first said, well, can we market this? Or would people come if we invited them? They answered that question because they charged $75 a head. And literally like the guest list was like 6 months waiting guest list, right? Crazy. Right? Then they basically just got the feedback from people over 2 to 3 years to make sure they optimize the menu. So before we go and get this big lease, right, and have this huge overhead commitment and insurance and all this other stuff, let's make sure people, one, we can bring the crowd. 2, are we even going to cook food that people want to eat? And so they actually use kind of lean startup principles to build a restaurant. So you guys should check out their story. They're an Atlanta-based company, husband and wife team. So to go back to your point again, start with a problem that needs to be solved. And the easy way to just figure out one of those is just something that sucks, right? And say, could we build a business around this that's profitable, right? That people would actually pay us for. And then if you go out through the whole customer discovery process that you're going to learn about when you read Business Model Generation, and 4 Steps to Epiphany by Steve Blank, you may actually figure out that, hey, this is a nice to have, but nobody pays for this, so this actually isn't a sustainable business. Great idea, but it's not a real business. But I think going through the iterative process of trying to figure that out, you may actually come up with the answer. And another way to address it, so on Legacy Movement's technology platform, we actually have these forums, and one of them is an idea board. So basically, when we went through our customer discovery process, what people told us, they told us exactly what you said, which is, I'm not an idea person. I don't think you're good ideas. But if you got a team that's ready to go and just working on something, I just want to jump on a team and work at a startup. So there's actually a market out there for a product or at least a feature on a website that basically people just go to find a bunch of ideas that people are already working on or actively looking to build teams and just jump on the team. So now we basically created that. It's an idea board where you can go look at ideas that people on the website are working on and literally just contact that person and say, I'll jump on that congestion problem with you. Right? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the idea. Let's get to know each other. Because we actually write about that. How do you choose a co-founder, right? Let's actually get to know each other and see if we can even work with them first, right? Then let's talk about the idea itself and figure out if we can build something, right? But at least that's a great place to start. You may not actually figure it out. That's a great place to start. Yeah.
So is Legacy Movement a nonprofit, or how do you guys make money?
So it's actually a social enterprise. So it's basically a business that does good, but it basically sustains itself through an actual business model. So our business model is very simple. All the education content is for free. This talk we're doing right now, this is going to be posted to YouTube, posted on the site. Anybody in the country can watch this and just learn. That's exactly what we want. We want people to have the education, the tools, and the resources to feel empowered, motivated, so they can get off the fence and just go start their business. We don't care what neighborhood you're from. We don't care if you got a job, if you got kids, poor neighborhood, who cares, right? If you want to be a business owner, learn from the free stuff that we give out and the free content we put out. And even if I'm not in your city yet, right? Because we're a startup, we're not everywhere, right? We're in a few cities, we're not everywhere. But if some kid in Oklahoma, we haven't gotten there yet, but some kid in Oklahoma finds this via Twitter or YouTube or whatever, and now he can just start plugging into the workshops and the content that's on the site. Now he feels the power to go start his own business. Great. Sign up as a member of our ecosystem. It costs $25 a month. So we purposely underpriced it because we wanted to make sure that people from low-income neighborhoods could actually afford it. College students can actually afford it. People that may not have, large means. But it doesn't matter. We're still going to work hard for members of our ecosystem to help them build their business. And really, we just developed a very simple revenue model that would just sustain the business. So you get like a core base of users, keep your costs pretty low, like this low overhead concept we're talking about. So now you're profitable. You may not be like killing it, making millions, but it doesn't matter. Because as a social enterprise, you have a mission, and that's really to create impact. So people always ask me that, well, how much money are you going to make? Well, it doesn't matter. I'm in the impact business. I'm not maximizing profitability. I'm not taking a percentage of every deal. Like, it doesn't work that way. It's literally, let's figure out a revenue model that allows us to just do this, and we'll just be out here teaching, building in communities, teaching people directly, and basically creating opportunities for people to lift themselves up out of poverty. Or just to literally take control of their economic freedom, get out of their job, maybe that they can't stand, and just go run their own business. It's kind of the genesis of it. Any other questions? Yeah.
So, I mean, the entrepreneur businesses, I've seen that businesses that have like a product that they want to sell, or like if it's related to technology, like something new, innovative, they are kind of more sustainable as compared to businesses such as like providing a service, like something that what you're doing. So how do you suggest like to make such kind of businesses more sustainable? Like what?
So you mean how do you choose whether I should do something that's product based or service based?
Or if it is service based, how would you make it more sustainable as compared to a product?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I don't know if I have the perfect answer for it, but here's how I would try to attack it. So how we did this business, we didn't start at the product versus service question. What we tried to do was let's focus on a key problem. People who wanted to get out the box and be business owners. And also, how do we bridge this gap in kind of lower income communities, with women, with military vets who are coming back overseas and not having adequate resources when they get back, right? You had like mortgage companies pitching subprime loans to like military vets, like that's crazy, right? But it happens. So how do we, I'm actually a mentor with American corporate partners, and how I got the idea that military vets is something to focus on is, as I'm on like this message board for the mentors, you're on there just basically like answering questions that all the military vets have, this virtual platform. And the program, American Corporate Partners, actually transitions military vets into corporate America, but like 70% of the comments are about how do I start my own business. So I started asking the question, like, why does everybody on here want to be an entrepreneur, but you're in ACP? They're like, yeah, well, it's the program they set up for us, but they never asked us if we wanted to be an entrepreneur. They just kind of just put us in there, and it is what it is. It's a great program, right? It gets us started because they just get back from deployment, right? And then, it gets them some work experience, but they're all telling me that they have these great people skills. They were like kind of running through Iraq and leading teams and saving lives. Like, we got great leadership skills already. We know how to manage people. We need to learn finance. We need to learn about this whole VC thing you keep talking about. So we just saw that there was a need, and when we started investigating the programs that existed for military vets, we saw there was a need. So what we tried to do is actually just look at the market need and just solve the problem. And also pick something, this is key too, something that you're passionate about, right? So when you go out there and try to pitch your business and nobody buys it, you're going to keep working if you're passionate about that problem, or if you're passionate about that product or service, or if you're passionate about the cause, like if you're a social enterprise, if you really want to solve global hunger in like Kenya, right? If you're passionate about it, even when everybody turns you down, you still go back to that, right? Whereas you just pick some random thing that you don't care about, like let's say it's like social gaming, creating Farmville crap, right? Like, when that business gets tough, you probably aren't going to stick it out because you don't really care. But when you pick something that you're passionate about, you're going to stick it out and you're going to fight it when it gets tough. And also something key to know about passion is that when you're out here looking for capital, if you decide that that's the way to go, people invest in you, right? They invest in the teams. So having an actual true connection and passion to what you're doing actually increases the likelihood that you'll get customers and actually get funded. That is a tried and true, ask any entrepreneur, like that passion and communicating that vision when you have nothing, because that's what we had to do. We had to go out there and like pitch a product that didn't exist, right? And so that was the only way we were able to get interest. And I'm pitching a product passionately. I know it backwards and forwards because I conceptualized and I wrote the tech requirements doc for it. So if anybody started asking me about it, I can describe it in very intimate detail. But had I not been passionate about the mission and the technology, how the ecosystem should work, how the culture is going to work, people would just be like, yeah, call me when you get 10,000 users. You know, yeah, I'll see it when I believe it when I see it, right? So that comes across as you're building a business. You might got any other questions? I know we had some people that said, I'm sitting on the fence. So my second year students, you got any current ideas that you're thinking about?
Not really, not at the
You
moment.
just looking and ready to jump on a tape. Let me ask you guys this question. This is great because we got all Georgia Tech students in the room. What do you guys think of the resources that are available right now at your university? Don't be mindful of the camera. I'm just looking generally, just kind of thoughts on college students right here at kind of, you asking about Atlanta. Georgia Tech is it in terms of like the technology epicenter, like nucleus of Atlanta, like tech startups, right? You got Flashpoint, this great accelerator. I don't know if you guys know about it, but if not, you should look it up. Flashpoint, you got ATDC that's right here on campus, and a lot of great faculty members who have experience as business owners, who have exited, worth $100 million. They consult and advise companies all over the city. I meet these guys all the time. So I'm curious to know, as I've heard people talk about thinking about corporate America and not really sure about entrepreneurship, like how do you view the resources here at your own school? Do you feel connected to them? Other kids that want to be entrepreneurs, just looking for general feedback. Yeah.
Well, I'm a super senior.
Okay, what's that mean in Georgia Tech terms? I've heard a lot of things. 5th year, 4th year, 3rd, 4th year. I'm trying to keep up.
5, 6+ years.
Okay.
But what I took some time off and came back. And plenty of years in the corporate world, and what I didn't realize is truly how much resources are actually here.
Yeah.
And if I would do things over again, I would change so much. Like you said, I didn't realize there were so many professors here who were doing big things. It's not until you really leave.
Yeah.
Then when connections start coming back to professors, start coming back, you start hearing about CEOs and people who are starting things, and you find out in their little bio, Georgia Tech this, Georgia Tech that, and you're like, oh shoot, oh snap, I missed out on a lot. And I've just in business and entrepreneurship, I've already been to the Enterprise thing. I was late coming to this because I'm coming from a business plan competition.
Yeah, I saw that.
Exactly. So there's so much going on and so many professors and so many resources that you can actually connect to if you're really interested and if that's really what you want to pursue. So I would recommend everybody, I don't know what year you are, if that's what you want to do, just keep at it.
Yeah.
Keep networking, keep asking questions, keep talking to those professors, because eventually, even if you move on, still having those connections that you can go back to and ask questions and bounce ideas from is very beneficial.
Yeah, and he brought up some, what was your name again, sir?
Sean.
Sean, thank you for that. He brought up some amazing things, so keep networking. I cannot stress enough how important it is that we talk about relationships matter. So all those little jobs I ran you through, all relationships. HGS relationships, Goldman relationships. Relationships matter, right? So in the deal world, anything startup, right? People do deals with people they know, they like, and they trust. There is no way you can just sit there in your dorm room and expect to just build some billion-dollar company. Maybe you just come up with some Steve Jobs, Instagram, something. Maybe, right? We got some smart people at Georgia Tech. But more than likely, you probably won't. You have to be out here networking in the ecosystem. And the great thing about Georgia Tech is right down the street on 5th and Spring, right? That's where everybody hangs out at ATDC, the Synergy Building, the Starbucks right across the street. So you actually don't have to go very far. So you've already got the ecosystem kind of like coming to you in Atlanta. So really, and I can send you guys a bunch of different things, and my contact information is right here, and I've got some business cards over there. I can send you guys all the Atlanta resources to get you plugged in very quickly. So if you're curious about entrepreneurship and you want to learn more about what's going on in your own backyard, on campus and off campus, I can see you guys some stuff, no problem. And actually, that's one benefit of our platform is that, so I mentioned earlier when we first started talking that we're at the intersection of education and entrepreneurship, but also ecosystem development. So that's what we do. we actually help communities actually build ecosystems locally, right? So getting college students like yourself connected across a huge system, right? You like, take Harvard for example, they got like 9 schools, right? Georgia Tech has a whole bunch of different schools, right? IE, computing, computer science, a whole bunch of different things, right? So helping students get connected across their campus, because this idea that you're looking for, I guarantee you there's some kid at Georgia Tech that's got a great cool idea that's probably looking for somebody like you to bring some business skills into the mix, because all he knows is how to do the tech work. So he needs somebody to help him go pitch it to others to get them excited about it and even raise funding with your customers, right? So there's natural synergy just on your campus. And then in addition to that, you guys think about where you are. You're in Atlanta. Emory, Morehouse, Spelman, Georgia State, AUC, right? You've got so many colleges right here in this urban center. There are tons of kids across the city who are in the same position as all you guys are in. Hey, I'm thinking about entrepreneurship, but I don't know yet. You need an idea, you need a co-founder, you need somebody with these skill sets, right? They're also looking for people, right? So there's an opportunity to leverage a platform to connect students across the city, right? And a lot of mayors and people in different cities actually find that attractive and want to leverage our platform to do so, right? Because we've already went out and did all the work. We built the technology, we built up the relationships, and all people got to do is just sign up and just get plugged in, right? So that's an opportunity. And then even further than that, just what I just talked about, getting yourself integrated into the tech startup ecosystem, or just the entrepreneur ecosystem. It doesn't have to be just technology. It can be healthcare, it can be restaurants, whatever it is, right? That already exists in your city. So one thing, if you guys got a chance to read my bio, on the team tab on my site, I'm actually an executive committee member of Startup Atlanta. So for those of you who aren't aware, Startup Atlanta is actually an initiative that the mayor recently launched to basically help drive and accelerate job growth and entrepreneurial activity in the city of Atlanta. It's going to be something that's going to be very huge over the next several years. I'm actually deeply and intimately involved in it. And so there's an opportunity to kind of take all this great student talent that we have in Atlanta and keep it here, right? So instead of you guys going and working in San Francisco and New York and just running off, right, stay here and create jobs locally, because you've already got a great entrepreneurial ecosystem here. You've got a mayor with a national profile that is all about entrepreneurship activity. So he's obviously going to be supportive of anything entrepreneurial in the city. So all the pieces are already there. Oh, and the other benefit that you have against these other cities, it's cheap. It's cheap to live here versus San Francisco and New York and some of the other places. So we start thinking about cash burn. We start talking about this risk, cash burn, right? I'd rather be in a city where my rent is like $500–600 a month than being $2,500 a month in Manhattan. That's just me personally. But I think for other people, that's something that's attractive. So Atlanta actually has a lot of benefits, and we're looking at ways that we can not only kind of bring this community together in Atlanta through our platform and through our kind of offline networking and workshops and different events, but also how can we do this in other cities that may have a similar dynamic, hard hit by the financial crisis, houses underwater, right? Unemployment running up in Michigan, and Georgia, and you've also got, in other states, California and other places, right? So many communities have been so hard hit, they're like looking and fishing for resources. So when you start talking about leveraging homegrown talent in a way that actually makes it very attractive to cities, because when smart students stay and build companies, it increases tax revenues, right? Because you guys are going to be buying homes and buying stuff, right? So increasing tax revenues, every mayor and governor is going to smile at that one, right? You start talking about creating jobs, every mayor and governor is going to smile at that too, right? All of a sudden, this whole ecosystem, let's really leverage these resources, gets real attractive to a lot of people, right? So there's a lot of opportunity right here in your backyard, and I highly encourage you to get involved in your local entrepreneurship ecosystem. There's a lot going on in Atlanta that you guys may not be aware of. And I'm happy to share our work with you in a number of ways. And through our partnership, obviously, you guys are going to know what we're working on. And just on another side note, I'll open back up for questions, just one more thing. So one thing that we also do with the Legacy Movement is we actually set up independent studies at some of the colleges that we work at. And basically what that does is it allows the college students to get course credit for doing work with us, and allows them to basically get entrepreneurial experience on our dime, right? So essentially, you take no risk, right? We've already built the platform, you got the team, you got the strategy, you got the idea, you got the relationships, don't worry about it, right? Just plug in and work on these 5 to 6 problems we're trying to tackle and actually get course credit for doing it. So there's an independent study program here at Georgia Tech. They have them in a lot of colleges across the country, and we actually set up ways for students to get credit for working for us. and get them deeply integrated into our work. So all these mayors and business leaders that I'm meeting with across the city, you're also meeting with, right? So you're getting that same exposure to the mayor, to high-profile business leaders, to serial entrepreneurs that are in our ecosystem. So now, you're 2 years out, you think, well, man, I'm thinking about starting my company. You spent the last 2 years meeting with angel investors all over the city of Atlanta. Now you're in a perfect spot to go raise money and get your company off the ground. Plus, you've met all the startup kids in Atlanta. So now you can just find co-founders everywhere, right? So it's actually a win-win for both people involved. One, we get students very involved and get them involved in our work here. It allows them to do some good stuff in the community because we target hard-hit communities as well. But also, you get that direct entrepreneurial experience. So this question about, is this for me, corporate entrepreneurship, you come hang out with me for a couple weeks, you'll see how hard this is, and you'll figure it out pretty quickly, right? So that's what we want to do, is give these high-quality experiences for students. So if they're having trouble figuring out if they really want to do it, we'll just do it on someone else's dime, right? So, any other questions? Yeah.
What are some of the setbacks you faced when setting up the legacy movement?
So there was a conference that we were supposed to do as part of like a launch for our business, like an official launch with the beta site and everything, that actually would have resulted in probably tons of high-profile exposure, business leaders across the country, and revenues. That conference got moved 3 weeks prior to when it was actually supposed to happen. So if you think about, I built this, little revenue model, and I did my little cash flow projections. I figure out, well, I've got this much runway, right? But once we start doing these events and we start making some money, we'll be okay. And all of a sudden, that just goes away, right? So obviously, that's huge for us, right? So that was a potential setback. But what ended up happening is it got moved because of a good reason, because there was more interest for the conference. They decided to move it to another date to allow more people, high-profile people to participate. So actually, we ended up being a bigger revenue opportunity next year for us, assuming we won't run out of money back. The other thing I'd say is setbacks in terms of credibility, right? So one of the things I find interesting about entrepreneurship is my corporate experience is now irrelevant. No one asks me about my corporate background anymore. Nobody cares. The only thing they care about is how many customers you got revenues, you got EBITDA, you got partnerships, what media outlets have written about you, right? Nobody cares about all the stuff that I did for the last 10 years, because now they're just looking at me as the entrepreneur and just evaluating me for that. And so when you're first starting a company, you don't have much to show. So your corporate background is really irrelevant. Nobody cares. So, well, show me what you've done so far, right? So there have been setbacks all along the way trying to establish credibility. But what I've done is I've been able to get like some early wins in terms of like media stuff, in terms of partnerships and customers and things like that. And I basically use them to leverage that to get my next customer and my next UDR and things like that. So I've had setbacks in terms of like getting the door slammed in my face like 50 million times by people saying, well, you haven't done anything, call me back when you actually do something, right? People totally ignoring my background and my potential. But the good thing is I was able to actually like kind of secure some partnerships, obviously out with Kappa Psi and others, through relationships, through constantly pitching and not giving up. So you end up building off of that and being, kind of successful in the long run. So there are always going to be setbacks. People will slam the door in your face, tell you that your idea sucks, or maybe tell you, hey, it sounds great, but I'm not going to fund you, or I'm not going to be your customer. So you'll get a lot of that too. But I think it goes back to this, learn how to pivot. Failure is okay, right? So what? 20 people slam the door in your face, because as long as he opened the door and a few other people, now you kind of get going and then you use that for momentum, right? So being very comfortable with that dynamic of, yeah, there's probably going to be, until I got this website up, everybody's probably going to slam the door in my face, but that actually didn't happen to us. A lot of people did, but not everybody. So instead of focusing on like what we failed at, like the conversations that went nowhere, or the non-responses, the no phone calls back, the emails that just got deleted, we focus on what we won at. So I try to keep this positive mindset of focus on the stuff that you win and that you're good at, and use that to like keep going forward rather than focus on the 70 people who didn't, return your phone call. So.
Yeah, you've probably come across a lot of student entrepreneurs or people, putting forth new ideas in their college life. Mm-hmm. I'm just curious, do those ideas have anything to do with their academic classes?
It's all across the board, actually. There are some people that say, you know, I'm going to do something based on what I know I'm good at, which is why I asked a little bit about the skill sets earlier. Also, so you guys can know who's in the room and what people are good at. But also, as a way to figure out, okay, if I'm going to go do a business and I don't have the skill set, let me find my co-founder in the room somewhere, right? Because they're good at it. And I chose that path, like you mentioned as well, is by staying within my niche. Finance technology, that's what this is. Finance and technology. Buying companies, starting companies, selling companies, using a tech platform to do it. So for me, it works. It doesn't always work that way. Some people literally, I know a guy who started a business that like translate foreign languages into English or to whatever language you are based in the home country you are via this kind of app, because when he was traveling to foreign countries, it was frustrating for him to learn little like, you know, phrases called trip lingo. A guy, Vince Bakerfield, Atlanta-based company, you guys should look it up. You know, and he's just like, yeah, I started this app because I got frustrated when I was traveling internationally, so that was my business. Wasn't that he was like super passionate about it, was his background. He just said, yeah, this is frustrating. And then we started asking other people and realizing that other people had this problem. Hey, you might have a business here. He was really good at UX. He knew how to build apps and build products, and that's what he did. There's his business. So had no, you know, specific skill set in it, but it was just a problem that he saw. When we started talking to other people, we realized they also had the problem saying, hey, we might have a business here, built it on the cheap, and you know, now they are raising money. Atlanta-based company. Yep.
What are your thoughts on growing a business growing organically versus acquiring another business?
Yes.
At what point do you think?
Yeah, so I think that as long as you understand the pros and cons of acquiring someone else's business, because I think you really have to be good at due diligence. So there's actually a book that we recommend on the site. There's two books on, like, there's one book on like valuation, how, you know, people think about like valuing businesses. There's also a book called Venture Capital Due Diligence by Justin Camp that's also on the site we recommend people do. Basically, it kind of gives you like a good framework of how to evaluate a business if you're thinking about acquiring it. And obviously, there are people like myself who have a background in M&A and banking who know how to do it too. So the combination of offering up the books, plus writing on the content of it, plus having people resource, we just, you know, advise people to get educated about it. Understand all the risk and dynamics of how to do a business that already exists, the questions you're going to have to ask, the lawyers you're going to have to hire, the auditors, CPAs, whoever, and make sure you're comfortable with the dynamic of someone potentially not telling you everything just to get the business sold, because it happens. And then, you know, obviously growing a business organically, you don't have to deal with that. It's just you, your team, your business, you're just building it. You don't have to worry about inheriting someone else's mess, because there could be lawsuits that come with that. There could be bad customer relationship, bad brand in a marketplace, all types of stuff if you don't do your diligence and ask the right questions before you acquire. Because once you acquire and it closes, now it's your problem. So, any other questions? Well, if we don't have any other questions, I'm going to keep you guys all night. We got about 10 minutes left officially, but you guys can feel free to stay. Highly encourage you to network with each other. Come talk to me offline if you got questions. I'm here till whenever because I have a curfew, no schedule. And if you guys have ideas for future topics, so as we talked about earlier, this is kind of like a partnership for us. So I want to be able to create value as much as I can for you guys, and the best way to do that is with direct feedback. So whether or not you thought this session was helpful, other topics of interest that you think, you know, might be helpful to kind of get educated on, and even if it's a workshop actually going through the process of just going through like a business model due diligence, like building a business model, like here for 2 hours. Like we actually do that with members of our ecosystem. Sometimes we do them one-offs offline. Sometimes we have workshops where literally it's like 15 people sitting in a room just beating up a business. So giving that person good objective feedback so they can go out and use that feedback to build the business appropriately. So if there are any like set topics that you guys are really like, you know, keyed on learning about, feel free to peruse our site, legacymovement.net. Look at kind of some of the topics out there. If you got, you know, things that you want to go deeper on, new topics, new ideas, feel free to reach out to me, Avi, whoever. I'm always accessible. I live here, you know. So happy to come back and talk anytime and be involved. So thank you guys. Appreciate it.